Anger is at once one of the most destructive emotions you can possibly have, and also one of the most productive, see? And this is a very difficult video for me, and so if I ramble a bit and talk about things that are a little bit personal, I mean, I hope you forgive me, but I think it's a very important topic, so let's just dive into it. The metaphor I always think about when I think about anger is a river, see? A river like in some, undeveloped place, right? In the past, way back when, like say the Nile River, it would flood periodically, right? And this flooding would be quite destructive, now wouldn't it? It would just flood the whole plain of Egypt or what have you, right? And it would be a disaster, and people might have, built some little huts by the side of the river, and the river would rise up and wash away these little huts and what have you, and these people would suddenly be homeless, right? A destructive thing, right? But over time, people learn to canalize rivers, right? Put little border walls and channel the river so that it would do good things for the people, right? And the Nile River became, the center of civilization, the birthplace of civilization. Yeah, because people were able to control that river and get it to do the things that they wanted to do, right? And not wash away people's houses, but on the contrary, irrigate the fields so that they would have food. You see? A powerful thing like the Nile was domesticated, properly domesticated. Domesticated in a way that took advantage of all the good things it could bring and, eliminated the bad, right? And that's what you have to do with anger. Now, that's like an incredibly vague metaphor, but let me give you, some more specifics, okay? See, my old man, he was, he was an awful person. He was a man dominated by his anger, okay? And, let me explain. I've read just about all of the great philosophers, the great writers, from the Greeks to Shakespeare to the great 19th century novelists. I've read them all, right? But the weird thing was that of all the great geniuses that I've had the privilege to read, there was a pulp novelist who captured my old man better than anybody. Yeah, it was Mario Puzo in The Godfather when he described the character of Luca Brasi. Yeah, Luca Brasi in the novel was this big bull of a man who had this unending anger, and in the book, not the movie, which is brilliant in its way, but in the book, Don Corleone, talking about Luca Brasi, says he's a man as if he's running through the world telling everybody to kill me, kill me, kill me, but he's so powerful that nobody can kill him. Yeah, and that was my old man. Yeah, my old man was a man of, great brilliance, great intellect, great energy, and extremely charismatic. And just, he had everything. He had a full house. He was born with every quality, but his life was ruined by his anger. He was destroyed by anger. Yeah, because what happened was that he would have fights with everybody. I mean, any passing irritation, any trivial thing that happened in his life, and he'd get into a fight. And often it's not, it was a fist fight, okay? I mean, and he would I remember countless times when my dad would get so furious that he would snap off this very expensive watch that he had and drop it there or put it in his pocket and just go up and just get into fights with people over trivia. I mean, things that were so trivial and inconsequential. And it was a miracle that, he wasn't arrested on more than one occasion. And things that I saw growing up. He was a man whose rage would lead him to overreact over trivial things of no importance whatsoever. It ruined his life. Oh yeah. It ruined his life. He's an old man now, and he's got nothing and no one. Yeah. His anger, his inability to control his anger, his inability to channel that anger into more productive directions, destroyed his life. And, he could have been great because, like I said, he had brains, he had charisma, he had drive, energy. He had it all. He had a full house. but his anger alienated everyone. It frightened people, just like Luca Brasi frightened people. Yeah, yeah. And the Luca Brasi character, I remember reading that character in the novel the first time I read it. I was thinking to myself, my God, Mario Puzo knows my dad. Yeah, I'm laughing about it, but growing up in that kind of circumstance was not pleasant. I'll tell you that. Because my old man, that anger also, emerged as bullying. I mean, he was a bullying fuck. He bullied me since the time I was little. He'd say all kinds of awful things towards me, just because he was a mean fuck. And now, retrospectively, I realize that meanness came out of fear. And that fear is what drove his anger. Yeah, because you have to understand that anger comes from fear and also from frustration. See, when you're afraid of things, when you're afraid of your environment, you're afraid of other people, you're afraid of whatever, right? How can you react? You can react in one of two ways. You can decide to run away, or you can decide to fight. The famous fight or flight response, right? So if things frighten you and you're strong, you're going to fight them. Yeah, of course, inevitably. Okay, if you have a strong personality, you've got a big brain, you got a lot of qualities, sure, you're going to turn around and fight that. And the anger, okay, is going to be an expression of your fear. But the other source of anger is frustration. Frustration in not getting what you want. Not getting what you want insofar as other people are concerned, or not getting what you want insofar as your environment is concerned. You might expect your environment to be placid, and all of a sudden something comes up and creates an obstacle for you, and in that way your environment is not doing what you want it to do, and okay, you get frustrated and you want it to be different, and you get angry because of it. You see? So it's fear on the one hand that can create that anger, and frustration. Those are the two causes of anger. From those origins, anger, if you allow it to flow through you uncontrolled, it's like a river that has no borders, no barriers, no canalization. Yeah, it's a river that can wash away everything in your life, like happened to my old man. My old man was, at one point, he was a very rich man. And he had all the promise in the world and all the possibilities and opportunities in the future. He had it all. But his inability to control his anger, to channel it properly in productive directions, well, it washed away everything in his life. Everything good and wholesome and decent in his life, everything valuable, his relationships with his children, his fortune, his friends, his social position, everything was washed away by this river of anger. It was all gone as if it had never existed. And it was a tragedy. But the funny thing is that, see, anger is a very powerful tool. Now, I always tell you that you should never be ruled by your emotions. You should never allow your emotions to dictate your actions. I'm not saying that you should repress your emotions. No, that's unhealthy, quite frankly. No, you should never repress them. You should simply set them aside and not allow them to dictate the things that you do. You should allow your reason, your logic, your acquired knowledge and your experience to dictate your actions. Never your emotions, and most certainly never your anger or fear. But that being said, see, anger is a powerful thing because it can be like a thermometer. It can teach you about yourself if only you examine it. See, in my own case, a lot of times when I was younger, I would become very angry, extremely angry, when I didn't get my way in relatively small things or paltry things that were of no importance, right? Or when, for instance, something that I owned, something that I possessed, was damaged in any way, no matter how trivial the damage. I would get so angry It would be like a volcano coming out of me. And a lot of times, unfortunately, when I was young, this volcano burst forth and spewed this lava of rage on people who didn't deserve it. And I regret that deeply today. But because of those eruptions, I was able to understand myself a lot better when I thought about it, when I considered it. And that's the thing. You have to look at your bursts of anger and understand why you have the eruption, what's going on, what is the reason, the cause of this anger. Because in my own case, see, I realized that the reason I would get so upset when little things didn't go my way, the reason I would get upset when the things that I owned, no matter how trivial, would get slightly damaged, a little scratch on it, what have you. The reason I had these eruptions was because I felt so powerless. I felt so powerless. I felt impotent. Yeah. I felt that the things in my life were not going the way I wanted them to. And so whenever I had a little bit of control over something, and that element of control slipped away, I would freak out. I would get so incredibly angry. I would explode because the thing was not going my way, because of this bottled up sense of impotence, of powerlessness. And the funny thing was that, this sense of impotence and powerlessness came from my old man, from all the bullying that he inflicted on me when I was growing up. Yeah, bullying me and bossing me around, telling me what to do this, do that, shut up, go here, go there, him trying to control every facet of my life, making me feel as if I were a spectator in my own life, and he was like the puppeteer, just making me go here, go there. That impotence, right? That sense of powerlessness, right? Well, that created a rage in me that when I had a little bit of power, a little bit of control over something, and it didn't go my way, I would just lash out in a horrifying bout of anger that was completely disproportionate to the incident or the situation, but had to do with the fact that I'd felt impotent and powerless for so long that it just, this anger and rage at that powerlessness had to explode somewhere, and it did whenever I didn't feel in power, whenever I didn't feel in control, right? And it took me a long time to understand this, a long time. Oh yeah, a long time, and frankly I count myself lucky to have realized it, because I realize now that my old man probably felt the same way. Probably felt the exact same way, that when he was growing up, he didn't have any measure of control or power over his own life, and he was just a victim of circumstances and other people, his parents and his situation, that were controlling and dictating what he did, but he was never able to learn from the experience and understand the source of his anger. And so instead of understanding his anger, and from that understanding being able to begin to channel it in productive directions, he just succumbed to it. And he became its slave, its plaything, the plaything of his own anger, and it ultimately destroyed him. In my own case, I don't quite know how it was that I was able to figure this out, okay? It wasn't some shrink or some shit like that. Shrinks are just a waste of fucking time. If you really want to understand yourself, you have to look at yourself, And shrinks, you might think that they are going to help you, but ultimately they just want to get your money, okay? They want you to be dependent on them for as long as possible. That's the majority of them, okay? There might be some minority of very good shrinks, but for the most part, it's just a scam, right? The only way to truly understand yourself is to look in the mirror. And it's very difficult. And not that many men have the balls or the brains to do it, but that's for another conversation. The fact in my own case, I was able to understand the source of my anger and frustrations and my fears. The fear I had felt growing up, the constant fear, that impotence that I had felt, constant impotence and helplessness, and being controlled by other people in a way that was unhealthy, right? And having no autonomy when I was growing up, right? I was able to understand these things about myself. And the weird thing was that as soon as I understood this, as soon as I understood the source of this anger that would explode pointlessly, needlessly, over the most trivial circumstances or incidents. Once I understood it, those explosions vanished. It was the weirdest thing. Yeah, because I don't get upset about anything now, you know? I mean, of course I feel frustration and you know, I'm not happy about things, certainly, but I don't get angry about them, okay? I mean, when something doesn't go my way, I'm like, shit, man, what do I have to do to make it go my way? How do I solve this problem? It's not like, holy shit, it's not going my way, fuck this shit, you know, these motherfuckers, blah, blah, blah. Which is how I used to behave, quite frankly, right? Now it's more like, oh, God damn it, it's not going my way. What do I have to do? Who do I have to suck up to or pay off or whatever so that it does go my way? Huh? And that's my attitude now, which is a lot healthier attitude. Same with possessions, you know. When something gets scratched up or dinged up, something that I own, I don't mind, I don't care, you know. If something gets broken, because of, you know, an activity, you know, I don't care. It's the stuff. See? Whereas before I would used to just explode with anger. If you know, like this little pen got a little scratch on it or a little nick or something, I'd freak the fuck out. And again, it's because of a pent-up frustration. Yeah. Once you realize the source of your anger, it sort of like just melts away. I can't explain it any other way. But see, what also happens is that, see, if you are able to do that, the energy that you are spending on your anger goes in productive directions. It's not that, you know, anger fuels you. No. What happens is that, see, anger takes so much out of you, so much energy out of you, okay? I mean, you're a human being, you're finite, right? And therefore, because you are a finite being with a limited amount of energy, you know, the energy that you devote to your anger is energy you are taking away from other things that you want to do with your life. You see what I mean? It's sort of like, you know, like a stack of chips and you're betting them on a roulette table, right? You have a finite number of chips. But if you take them away from the losing bets and put them on the winning bets, right? Well, then you win more. You see what I mean? Time is also a thing that dissipates anger. And don't get me wrong, you should be trying to understand where your anger comes from. Understand where it comes from so that you sort of like diffuse the bomb of anger and redirect that energy into more productive areas of your life, like I said before. But you see, another thing that really helps insofar as anger is time. Because as you get older, you start to care less and less. And care less and less about the things that happened to you in the past, the powerlessness and the fear that you had in the past that led to your anger. Because what happens is that as you grow older, you have more and more opportunities to have control over situations. And as you have more and more control over situations, that feeling of helplessness, of impotence, well, it begins to erode because you are, in fact, driving the car of your life. Right? And so time is a great way to leave behind that anger. I mean, you have to leave it behind, okay? You have to look at yourself and ask yourself, do I explode, you know, once or twice a week? Do I have a complete shit fit over this, that, the other? Do I sometimes want to punch the ever-living crap out of somebody who's not doing what I want? You have to ask yourself these questions. And if the answer is yes, then you have to ask yourself why. You have to look in the mirror and ask yourself, why am I, you know, wanting to beat the ever-living shit out of some guy just because he took my parking spot? You have to ask yourself this. Because is it annoying when some asshole comes and steals your parking spot? Sure it is. Is it worth getting out of your car, opening the car door of the other guy, pulling him out and beating his face to a bloody fucking pulp? Is it justified? Do you feel that you want to do that sometimes? And the only thing stopping you is you know, fear that you'll be arrested and tossed into jail? Does that happen? Because if it does, then you got to figure out where it's coming from. You got to figure out where that anger is coming from. Because one day, you know, you're going to have a slip up And you'll forget that you'll be tossed into jail, and you'll wind up kicking the ever-living shit out of some guy and get thrown into jail and have your life ruined. Yeah. So you got to figure this shit out now that you can. And the anger that you feel, the frustration that you feel, it all comes from fear and impotence. That's the source of it. What other source can you have for anger? If things are going great in your life, right, and you're getting everything that you want, then why should you feel angry, right? You're not going to feel angry. You only feel anger when you feel that you're not getting your way or when you're afraid. And more often than not, it's not the incident that is happening at this moment that makes you feel afraid or makes you feel impotent. And often as not, it's something that happened in the past. Something when you were young, perhaps very young, perhaps so young that you don't even remember it. And you have to make peace with that. And that's so incredibly difficult. I mean, it's easy to say, oh, just make peace with it. No, it's just, it's just fucking pretty words, right? It's easy to say it, but to actually do it, you have to do it. You have to do it because, see, I look at my old man, he lives in a crappy little one-room apartment. He's got nothing. He's 76 years old? He's got nothing in his life. Nobody gives a shit about him. And in point of fact, there are a whole bunch of people who actively despise him. And when he croaks, a lot of these people, myself included, are going to be happy. Yeah. A little less misery in the world. Yeah. And he's 76 years old and he still has these explosions. He still has these just temper tantrums like a fucking child. Yeah. And it's all because of an inability to make peace with his own anger, an inability to make peace with his own fears and frustrations, an inability to simply let go of those fears and frustrations. And that's the secret. You just have to let them go. Not forget them. No. That's not what I'm saying, because you can never really forget them. But let them go. Not allow these emotions to control your life. That's what I always say. That's what I say is the difference between a man and every other creature on this earth. We men can control our emotions. This doesn't mean to suppress them or repress them or pretend that they're not there. No. On the contrary. We have to face our own emotions, but we have to set them aside. And anger, most especially.